Hello, Nate here, just with some tips and tricks for Quartus. So I'll try to be lightning fast with this so you guys don't have too much to watch. My first run was 15 minutes long, so I'm going to try to shorten it down a little bit. So first thing is I have a project here. It's already opened. You can see test project with the mouse. And first thing you're going to see here is a hierarchy. Well, you're going to want to click on your files here. What you're normally going to see is nothing, and I want to go ahead and showcase the first important tip I want to point out to you is that if you're working on something, let's say you have a file here, new block file, and you'll see you're doing some things, right? You're doing logic things. Wow, so pretty. Look at that. Wow, this logic is amazing. And you want to upload it to your board. Well, look in your files. Is it there? No. So what you have to do is you have to go in here, and you have to save it. I'm going to save it here as test project. Boom. Yes, it does. And boom, look at that, it's in your files. A second important thing to note, if I go ahead and if I open up, let's say block 2 here, and I'm gonna go ahead and save this as well. And then whenever you save a file like this, even if you're just overlaying it like I am here, it's going to add it to your project. And this is important because if you want to upload a file to your board, it needs to be in your project. And the most important thing here is that whatever file you are uploading needs to be set as the top level entity. This is number one important thing I'm going to go over here is the top level entity. If, for example, you have 30 different files in here, whatever is set as the top level entity is the one that is going to get sent actually to the board. So if you have a file that has all of your logic on it and you accidentally set like this as your top level entity, this is the file that's going to get uploaded to the board. It's just going to be confusing why it doesn't work. A second thing I wanted to point out was as far as putting things in, naming conventions. Your names are normally going to be something like, well, let's see here. Let's type in. First of all, if you type in a name, it'll actually pop up. You can click on repeat insert mode right here, and you can go click, 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 a bunch of stuff. Renaming things are very important because when you go to assign your pins later, you're going to have a list of these things and you're going to see pin name 1, pin name 2, pin name 3. You're not going to know what that is. So you're going to want to have things named correctly. Like, let's name this A. And if you double click on that title, you'll actually be able to type it in like I just did here. If you hit enter, it'll jump down to the next one and you can just keep going. So like right here, we can name this, you know, let's name it help me please, you know. So just kind of nice there, and same goes for the output, of course. And you'll notice here I also have some different colors. If you right click on something, go to properties, go to format, you can color it differently. This is pretty handy if you like to be organized using colors. I don't necessarily, but you can make them look pretty funky. And an important thing I want to note here, second important thing that you take away from this video is rename your blocks, please. And I'll show you why. Whenever you first make these things, right, they're called inst. Well, if you have a voltage source, or if you have a ground, in digital logic terms, voltage is a 1, ground is a 0. Well, they don't have names on them, right? Or do they? You'll see this. Click. It's called inst1, it's called inst2. Well, the issue is Quartus for some reason is really stupid about this. You can have a block here called inst, and you can also, if you load in a voltage source, it will also automatically be called inst. Well, now these are the same name, so if I try to do something like this, and if I try to compile this, you're going to notice it's not going to work. There it is. Not successful. So if you have an error like this, well, this is actually different. Top partition does not contain any logic. You know why? This is the top file. There's no logic. So let's real fast set this as the top level, and let's try to compile it again. And it's still going to have a problem here. And there it is. Logic function of type VCC and instance inst is already defined as a single name or the logic function. So if you double click on it, it'll actually take you to the thing that's having an issue. And of course, the issue here is this. Another useful tip is if you have a wire and you want to see exactly where the wire goes, if you double click on it, it'll highlight everything the wire is connected to. This is really handy if you guys have crossed wires because, as I'll show you here, and by the way, these floating wires, they're actually fine. Quartus looks at floating wires and just basically kind of doesn't look at them. But if you have wires connected in ways that aren't good, so say if we just go ahead and cross wires here, let's try to compile this again. That's not going to work. It's going to say GDFX temp O something something something. Here it is. Net GDFX temp O, which fans out to OP, cannot be assigned to more than one value. That is a confusing error message if I've ever seen one, and it took me a while to figure out what it was, but essentially what it's saying is you done crossed a wire somewhere, kiddo. So find your wire right here. Once again, click on it, and it will highlight sometimes the issue. It should pop up like that. And you'd be like, okay, cool, double click this wire. Oh, wow, I crossed it here and here. That's crazy. And that kind of makes sense, right? Because you have 1 bit, 2 bits, and they can't all go out to 1 bit. It's just not how logic works. So those are basically all the things I kind of wanted to show you. Really quickly also, I'll show you how to create a symbol block, because that is very handy, and that'll be the last thing I go over. So if you have a file, you wanna put that file in here. Oops, let's just delete all this. And you want to try to be organized. Here's what you do. File, create/update, and create a symbol file. And what this does is it actually creates a little instance of your file as a module, much like the AND gates and OR gates that you've come to know and love. And once again, if you know what it's called, you can just type it in. So this is called block 2. Wow, there it is. And this is this file here, and you can actually even just double click on this and it'll take you to the file. So it's really cool. It's really easy to be organized in this program if you take just a little bit of time to organize, and I highly recommend it because you know, as your project grows, it's going to be harder to keep track of, and you're going to really want to be a little more organized. You know, something else I'll point out actually real fast, you'll notice each time I've copy and pasted one, the number at the end's grown higher. So Quartus does actually do incrementing pretty well. For example, if I was to go in here and name this, let's name it, if I can actually name it here, my block 1. Well, now if I copy and paste, look, my block 2. So that's a really handy way to keep yourself organized. And there's actually one last thing I'll talk about, and it is a sort of design philosophy that I like. It's about staying organized. So if you have a bunch of inputs and a bunch of outputs, an easy way to stay organized is to literally put all your inputs on one side, all your outputs on the other side, and then just take the wires, right, and just drag them down like this. And if you click on the wire and start typing, it'll actually start typing the name of the wire, and it will start naming it wherever you clicked on the wire. Apparently here it's putting it at the end, but usually it's wherever. And so that's a way you can easily, if you're working on your logic and you're like, okay, I know this one needs to connect to wire 2, you're like, oh, there it is. This one needs to connect to wire 1, there we go. This one needs to connect to wire 3, oh, there we go. So hopefully that was helpful. I tried to keep it kind of short. That's basically the gist of all the useful things that I've learned in my 1.5 years or so of using this program now that aren't really taught to you in the labs. I hope they make your time using this program easier. Like I've been saying, you don't want your inability to use this program to be the reason that you slow down, because the labs are hard enough on their own as they are without not being able to use the program that you have to use. So get good at the tools and it'll make your life a lot easier. So thank you for watching, and I will see you all in lab.